Should Marvel Studios pivot away from Kang the Conqueror and instead make Doctor Doom the main villain of the Multiverse Saga and the main villain of Avengers Secret Wars? That's an actual question and a conversation that Marvel Studios themselves had earlier this year. And I gotta be honest with you, in this video, what I really want to do is make the case for Doctor Doom actually taking over. I know a lot of people out there like Kang, they like Jonathan Majors, they like what's happening. But I will tell you, regardless of what happens with his court case, even if they have to recast, I still think they gotta move away from Kang. It's gotta be Doctor Doom, baby. And so here's why they should just go with Doctor Doom. Number one, most people already thought this was going to happen. Doctor Doom is the villain of both Secret Wars events in the comics, and in the most recent Secret Wars event, he doesn't play a massive role in the lead up to Secret Wars, and then all of a sudden we find out he actually was doing some crazy stuff behind the scenes, and he kind of takes over the entire story, saves the multiverse, establishes Battle World, and then rules over it as a god. It's a very Doctor Doom thing to do, and honestly, ever since Avengers Secret Wars was announced, you've had channels and Redditors and people on Twitter, a bunch of fans, but also content creators suggesting that Doctor Doom coming in and taking over from Kang would be viable, not only viable, but the thing to do. Many fans, including myself, are baffled at the idea of doing Secret Wars without Doctor Doom being the main villain, without him being the guy that takes over everything. So Marvel has this unique opportunity with this decision to do something that would be a little bit shocking, but also has a lot of base for happening in the actual comic books. Like, there's evidence in the lore that this kind of stuff happens all the time. So I'm sure that's probably why they actually even brought it up at that summit and we're seriously considering it, because it's an actual play that has grounds for happening in the comic books, and a lot of fans are already expecting it to happen. Another reason I think they should just shift into Doctor Doom instead of Kang is that Doctor Doom is just always a badass. We've seen a lot of different versions of Doctor Doom, just like there are different versions of Kang, but the difference here is that every single version of Victor Von Doom is an absolute badass. Like, there's no Victor Timeleys when it comes to Doctor Doom. There's no silly ass He Who Remains. Like, I'm sorry, guys. It's just the truth. This is not currently working with a villain like Kang. He just doesn't fit the bill. He's not Thanos level. I don't feel afraid of this guy whatsoever. Both the post-credit scenes for Quantumania actually turned me off from the character, and that was after I watched one of his variants get beat by friggin' ants. Up until episode 6 of Loki, because we haven't seen that yet at the time of recording this video, every version of Kang we've seen on screen has lost, I guess, except for the Council of Kangs, which looked like a stadium full of ridiculous children that had way too much sugar when they were out with their crazy aunt. And I think one of the problems with Kang is that it just doesn't feel like there's an actual threat there. It doesn't feel villainous. It's not badass enough. And by shifting into Victor Von Doom, one of the greatest, most iconic villains in the history of Marvel, in the history of villains, period, Doom would solve the problem of not feeling like there's this big threat that's actually menacing in the multiverse. And the fact of the matter is, Marvel hasn't done a great job of developing Kang so far, so it's not that big of a loss if we just shift into Doctor Doom. Like, seriously, guys, like, just look at the numbers out there. Like, Loki Season 2 viewership, much lower than the first season. Quantumania, one of the worst reviewed Marvel movies ever, one of the lowest box offices in the entire catalog of Marvel movies. Loki Season 1 was dope, and I love Jonathan Majors as He Who Remains in that finale, but the fact is, man, we just have no context for this character. There's nothing menacing about the character. They have done a bad job. So what's strange about that is, in some ways, they've left that opportunity completely open for Doctor Doom to come in and be developed much faster, much better. At the end of the day, it feels like Marvel is going to slowly develop the Council of Kangs more throughout the next couple of years of projects. This includes some movies that haven't been officially announced yet, like Doctor Strange 3 and Shang-Chi 2, which seem to be dealing with time and directly dealing with the Council of Kangs. But I think now is the pivot point. You could absolutely change it right now to either inject Victor Von Doom into some of those stories as well, where maybe he's helping the Avengers to overcome the Kangs, and all of a sudden you're like, whoa, Doctor Doom's kind of dope. What's the deal with him helping the Avengers? And then all of a sudden at the end of it, he snaps and takes over everything and becomes the big bad of Secret Wars. You could tie it into the sacred timeline because, of course, the Fantastic Four didn't exist in the sacred timeline, and you could just say that was by intention, that He Who Remains had made sure that Victor Von Doom wasn't going to be around in the sacred timeline because Victor Von Doom is one of the people that could inevitably lead to the downfall of Kang. Marvel's already built in this shadowy figure, the person that bought Avengers Tower, the person that was trying to get the Pym particles, and it seemed like they were going to build that up towards Kang, but you just switch it to Victor Von Doom, boom, problem solved. Doctor Doom comics sell. Doctor Doom merchandise sells. And currently what's going on with Marvel right now, I don't really see the Kangs moving off the shelf. I don't even know how much they've merchandised of Kang because, again, they're not really developing the villain in a proper way. And lastly, I'll just briefly talk about the situation with Jonathan Majors. Look, he's going to have his day in court. I personally don't think it's looking good for him. I know a lot of you think it is, and you're like, dude, what are you talking about? This happened, this happened. He's going to be innocent. Well, they had a chance to throw the case out multiple times, and the DA's going ahead. From what we hear, the DA feels they have a very strong case against Majors. Sure, they can just recast, right? They can get another great actor in there to play Kang. But you got to understand, guys, the only reason they went this hard on Jonathan Majors, like the only reason they put so much like investment into this guy and made him the villain, not only of, you know, a show, but another movie and another movie and another movie. He's the villain of the entire Multiverse saga. And the reason they did that is because of what kind of actor he was. Jonathan Majors, you know, regardless of how his legal stuff turns out, is a phenomenal actor. Like, once in a generation kind of actor, right? Like, just really, really good. Like, he's Black Daniel Day-Lewis kind of, you know? And I think Marvel saw that and they were like, holy shit, this is incredible. We can make this guy multiple villains. He has such a range. It's going to be such a pleasure for audiences to watch. And I think that that is true, but you don't have another actor like that. Like, you can't just recast somebody and expect that same magic to be there for the Kang character. I just don't see it, guys. So if they recast, if they can't move forward with Majors, I think it's a mistake to just walk that same path that was forged because of what a legendary actor Jonathan is. And look, I'll say this. If they go to court in late November and he's exonerated of all charges and it comes out that he's actually this dope guy and he's awesome and the police suck and all these other people suck, if that is like clearly what happened, then I say go with Jonathan Majors. Continue to do the Kang thing, but you still got to do a better job of making me believe him as a villain and be afraid of what he might actually do to the multiverse. So look, I'm down, but what I'm saying is I think that's a low potential chance here. I don't think it looks good for Jonathan Majors. And I think if they can't bring Majors back, if they can't move forward with him, I think it's a mistake to just keep going with Kang. But there you have it, guys. Just a little video. Wanted to kind of get my thoughts out there about this Doctor Doom thing. It blew up this week. A lot of people talking about it. So, of course, I want to know what you think about it. Let me know in the comments section below. As I always say, I hope you're having an awesome and a nerdy day, and I'll see you in the next video.